Hi, everyone. Welcome to our work sample one-on-one video. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Karen.
We're excited to talk to you today about work samples. We know that it's a question that many of you have. Some of you wonder what to turn in or how to turn in, and we hope that this very short video will walk you through all of that. So first of all, we want to answer what's a work sample. A work sample is just a collection or portfolio of what you've been doing so far in the year. So we know that you're working, and this is a way for you to showcase what your student has been doing. If you're doing a portfolio, it could be a sampling of daily lessons, some photos, some videos, something that shows us areas where you want some help maybe, or something that shows us really how your student is performing well. For those of you that are doing vendor graded courses, that might be that you're doing like teaching textbooks math. Those are so easy. And what we want on those is just a printout of that. If you're a private school student, maybe you're taking classes there, you're also doing some work with us, it's going to be a sampling or a mixture of those things. So Karen's going to talk to you about each subject and what we're looking for.
So at the beginning of the year, we created the personal education report where we listed the classes and what curriculum you're going to be teaching your child. So there's core classes and there's elective classes. Examples of core classes include language arts, math, social studies, science, foreign languages, and technology classes. For those classes, we require 3 samples per quarter. And then for our elective classes, we require 1 sample per quarter. Examples of elective classes include art, music, PE, home ec, etc. For the core courses, you're going to want to be sure to turn in at least 1 sample from the curriculum that is listed on the PER. So if your language arts curriculum is Wordly Wise, we want to see a Wordly Wise worksheet each quarter. Another important thing is grades. So the PER also serves as a report card. So if your student is in high school, you are going to tell us what grades to issue for each subject each quarter. If your student is in grades K through 8, we're looking for you to tell us what grades to issue at the end of each semester. So at the end of second quarter and at the end of fourth quarter.
When are those quarters, Miss Karen?
So we don't have any hard and fast dates for our work sample due dates. Instead, we do a window. Quarter 1 is due between October 15th and November 15th. I always remember Halloween. Quarter 2 is January 15th to February 15th, so around the new year. Quarter 3 is spring break time of year, March 15th to April 15th. And quarter 4 is when the weather's getting good, May 15th to June 15th. Another important thing to note is that with each quarter, we're really looking for a progression through your curriculums. So overall for the year, you're going to be submitting 12 samples for language arts. But we want to see quarter 1 from the beginning of the book, quarter 2 and 3 from the middle of the book, and quarter 4 from the end.
So when you're thinking about each one, you might be asking, well, I'm not sure really what to turn in. So we've got each subject listed out here, and we're going to kind of run through those very briefly. For language arts, I've got kind of a spattering of assignments here. I know that for kindergarten, for early elementary, you may not be doing a lot of written work. So much of language arts in those early years is done orally. And so we want to have opportunities for you to show that. One of the ways that you can do it is to snap a picture of your child, maybe doing some work with letter tiles. You could also have them maybe draw a picture, and there's a picture here on with a student that's drawn, I don't know, a big person on a hill, and then there's a little narrative that the parent has written down, and that's perfectly acceptable for those early years before they get doing it. As you continue through high school, middle school, or late elementary, we're looking for student-generated work. Sometimes that's through workbook pages. Sometimes it's going to be through things that they type. Sometimes you might have a picture of like what they're learning and then maybe a description of it, which is kind of one of the examples here. There's a little paragraph narrative that describes what they've been doing, and then it gives some supporting evidence of that.
So, math, much like language arts in the early years, it might be more hands on, moving manipulatives and such. And then you can go ahead and take pictures and video of the kids working with their manipulatives. But if you would please include a sentence about what the concept is. In math, it's common that then they would go on to be doing more workbook pages. And so by second, third grade and beyond, we're looking for written work. It is very common with math that people are using online programs like Teaching Textbooks, Mr. D Math, Nicole the Math Lady. And then you can just go ahead and give us the vendor report that shows a summary of what they have done. And again, we're looking for that progression. So in Q1, we're hoping to see that you've completed the first quarter of the online program. Science, same thing again, but this one is more throughout. Lots of lab work. So even as students are getting into high school, it's common that they're doing lab work. But when students get to high school, we want to make sure that there's some written work. So if you're taking pictures and videos of them doing labs, it's important that we know also what they were learning. And it would be appropriate for them to write essays. Students who are in their early elementary grades, if the parent could just please put a little bit, if you're doing picture or video, if you could please include a little bit of detail about concepts being covered.
The same goes for social studies. And social studies is kind of broad. So, you might say social studies on your PER. That is history. It's going to be geography. It might be psychology. It's a pretty broad subject about how humans interact and live. And so there might be things in early elementary that you're studying. If you're studying like ancient history, that you've got like a lap book that you've put together, or maybe you have a reading list. The second picture here is of 3 books, and then it's just a picture of a map. And that family has been working together and studying the books and doing a lot of oral work. And so the parent wrote a little description, showed what books they were using, and then gave a little bit of evidence. I've included on here a picture of Bookshark, and there wasn't a great spot to put this one singular curriculum. But sometimes when we have a curriculum that is already written out for you, where it's a little bit more scripted, those scripts that a parent's using or that lesson plan that it comes with is a great way to kind of focus your work sample and help you make sure that you have things. So you could include that one weekly schedule, and then you could include some samples that happened that week. And that's a really great way to kind of pull together a holistic curriculum like that. When it comes to our academic electives, and this is again foreign language and technology, we still do want to see 3 samples of those. Usually when you're doing foreign language, you are doing written work, especially high school. We need to see what you're doing. We are going to need to see some worksheets, some essays, things that are showing what you're doing in that language, because we're issuing high school credit for that. For maybe the technology for keyboarding, most of the technology courses are going to be vendor graded. And so those, you won't need the 3, but we will need some kind of evidence that you're working through the program with that report.
Okay, non-academic electives are most commonly art, music, and PE. We're looking for, high schoolers are always looking for more ideas than that. So we'll often have personal finance, work study, home economics, woodworking, kind of the sky's the limit on that. We only require 1 sample per quarter for electives. If you are in high school, we require the sample plus an activities time log, and we want to see 70 hours per semester or 140 hours per year. So most commonly, the sample is going to be a picture or a video.
So you're probably wondering, they still haven't told me how to turn these in. We try to be as flexible as we can. We try to be available to you for these questions. And so we want to be able to offer multiple ways where we're not asking you to upload everything into like a certain drive. If you want to turn in paper, pencil copies and worksheets and things that you've done, you can bring those into the office. You can make an appointment with your teacher if you want to walk through everything together, or you can just drop them off. We have our Dropbox out front, and so you're welcome to throw things in there after hours. It would be helpful if you're turning in work samples if they were in an envelope so that they all stay together when they go into that Dropbox. And then other ways that you can do it, we have most people turn in things digitally these days. The majority of our families are using email, but then we have a lot of people that are using Google Drives. And we'll have some tutorials in the s'more that this video is with that will show you how to do those things. But I have an example here of two different types of samples. And the main thing we want to communicate to you is that you label everything. We need to know what we're looking at. We need to know that it's from you. And it's uncommon, but especially with papers, we want to know that every paper has a name on it so that we know that it does belong to you. So if you could just put Stephanie, Q1, Language Arts, or Q1 Math, that's really helpful to us. If you're sending an email, we do want to be able to search for those emails really fast if we need to. And so if you could just be sure that your subject line says Roselle Family, Q1. And then within there, it allows you to write examples of maybe what you're submitting to us, and then you can do all the attachments. This particular example shows PDFs, and so I will attach as well with the other tutorials a little video on how to do a PDF from your phone. Another way that we have people submit is, again, that shared Google Drive. And I'm just kind of reiterating the please label everything. So when you turn in a folder like this to us that you're sharing, be sure it says Roselle, 6th grade, Q1. And then within that folder, you can drop things by subject. You could have individual documents as long as they're kind of labeled and it's really clear for us. Another way that sometimes people will submit is a shared Google Doc or like a Microsoft Word document where you can label at the top what it is. This one says second quarter report, January, and then it had 3 children's names there that I took off, but they're showing math, and they've got 3 math assignments there. They've got 3 pictures, and there was more to the document that went on to every subject. So it's a way that you can maybe add a little bit of a narrative or make it kind of really clear to us what you're doing.
If you are at a private school or using online vendors, then work sample time is especially easy. Private schools, we're just looking for the report card that they're issued. If you can turn those into us quarterly, then we can take the grades that were issued by the private school and put them onto the CyberLynx PER. If you're doing online vendors for certain classes, you can just turn those into us as well. Some common vendors that get used are Veritas, BYU, North Dakota, teaching textbooks. Those are examples. Acellus is very common. Again, we're looking for progress with these reports. So if you're using Acellus or Power Homeschool and you're turning in Q1 vendor reports, we would like to see that students are close to 25% or so done for first quarter when you turn those in. Of course, there are always exceptions. Maybe students are focusing on a couple classes at a time and they don't have progress in every curriculum or every subject at the same, and that's just a conversation to have with your teacher.
Yeah. We always want you to ask us questions. We know that as you're doing this, there's always special situations. And so while we hope we covered most of it in the video, we know that there's going to be more. So reach out, ask us. Hopefully our smiles are encouraging to you. We really love hanging out with you. And so we want to be here for you if you have questions. So if you have questions, again, I don't know why I said that, but hey, give us a call. Take care, guys.